We have had obviously quite a significant dislocation with the vote, which we were not expecting, or some were not expecting. I certainly wasn't. But we also now have the position where we have our two main political parties. One set of backbenchers wants their leader who is going, but to stay. The other set of backbenchers want their leader who is staying, but to go. And it is a proper, real palace of varieties at the moment. We will see what happens. Anyway, my theme today really is that business is going to continue as usual. Transport needs are still there. Our carbon agenda still applies. People need to get to work, get the kids to school, etc. And you can see that, I hope, in the fact that today we have announced we've set the level for the fifth carbon budget. So whilst the media is in hysterical gossip overdrive, and my goodness, it is curious, the work, the hard yards of actually making our country run are still continuing. And my theme today really is the past, present and future of the low-carbon vehicle industry. And I shall be talking about the industry's past and also continuing achievements, the present context of the referendum outcome, and the action that we are taking to support the industry in the immediate future. So let's start with the industry's achievements. Well, I think the best measure of how far this industry has come is that it's now just about impossible to walk down the streets of many, many towns in our country without passing at least one ultra-low emission vehicle. Yeah, it might be a Tesla. There's always one Tesla parked outside the DFT. But it's usually a Leaf, but it could be an Outlander or many of the other dozens of varieties on the market today. Vehicles that were once exotic are now absolutely commonplace. In fact, in total, 28,000 low-emission vehicles were sold in the UK last year, and that's more than in all the previous 4 years added together. And I've no doubt that we'll beat that record in this year as well. The progress that we have made in this country has actually put us in the position of being the fifth largest market in the world. But we're not just buying low-emission vehicles, we are also building them. The performance of the UK motor industry as a whole, I think, has been outstanding in recent years, and we are home to some of the most innovative and productive manufacturers in the world, whether it's JLR, Mini, Nissan, Toyota, Honda, Vauxhall, or even high-end Bentley, Rolls-Royce, McLaren, Aston Martin. They are making and selling cars in huge numbers, and we have a net balance of trade surplus in vehicles, not in volume, but in value. Now, the low-carbon component of the industry is also doing brilliantly. The Leaf is the world's most popular electric car. It's made in Sunderland that in 2014 made more cars in that one plant than the whole of Italy. So far, it's produced 50,000 Nissan Leafs, and they have driven over 1.1 billion emission-free miles and counting. The UK's low-emission vehicle industry is a huge success story and a source of strength in our economy. And the era of ultra-low emission vehicles is here. There's no going back. It is now just a question of how quickly we can push them through the fleet and how quickly we can see the benefits of these vehicles in our communities. Now, that record of past success is one reason why we should be confident about the future, confident about the present, and indeed potentially also confident about the outcome of the referendum. It's obvious that we are living in historic times of political change. All the plates are shifting as a result of that referendum. Wasn't the vote I was looking for, but one thing about votes is that the British people have a more important voice than any politician, so we now have to get on with it. That is the way it is. But what does it actually mean? Well, we don't know just yet, and in commenting upon that, I was thinking a little bit about the famous quote from Zhou Enlai in 1972 when he was asked about the Chinese premier was asked about the historical impact of the French Revolution. He went on to say that it was far too early to say. Well, I hope we'll be able to make some progress a little bit more quickly than that. In fact, I think it's already clear that this industry remains in a position of great strength, and we mustn't forget that the progress that we've made in the UK has not been wholly dependent upon the EU. Our domestic environmental legislation is at least as ambitious as the EU's. For example, we've always had a global outlook. In September, we joined the International Zero Emission Vehicle Alliance, alongside not only Germany and the Netherlands, but also Norway, Quebec, a number of US states, including California and New York. And that alliance has the objective that all new passenger vehicles in their jurisdictions will be zero emissions by no later than 2050. So while the present is full of political and economic uncertainties, I have no doubt at all that the UK, European and global demand for ultra-low emission vehicles will continue. And the government's commitment to this agenda is utterly unchanged. So let me now move and finally to talk a little bit about how our support for the industry is going to continue into the future. Later this year we will consult on biofuels and how biofuels can help us meet our carbon budget. We're also looking at further support for advanced aviation fuels. This is an exciting agenda. Soon we'll be able to announce that 50 companies have joined our Go Ultra Low Companies scheme. And those companies include Microsoft and the London Fire Brigade. Scheme members commit to running a fleet that is at least 5% electric by 2020. And in return for that commitment, they receive official Office for Low Emission Vehicles endorsement, and we work with them to promote their pledge. But my greatest hope for the years ahead is actually that we will see more progress on heavy goods vehicles. HGVs are obviously critical within our economy. Our economy would grind to a standstill without their work, but they are only 1% of the vehicles on our roads, yet account for 17% of surface transport CO2 emissions. So we need to make progress with our HGVs. So I'm pleased, therefore, to be able to make two announcements here today in support of greener trucks. The first is that we are going to offer just under £20 million to support the introduction of concept technologies into operators' working fleets. We're going to invest £15 million, which could put around hundreds of vehicles into service, and a further £4 million to pay for refuelling infrastructure. We will monitor the concept technology's performance, testing it, refining it, getting it ready for the marketplace. Our experience with trials like these in the past is that they are effective. And on the 14th of July, Innovate UK is holding an event at the National Motorcycle Museum in Coventry to talk about what we've achieved so far and what we hope to achieve next. I hope that many people, therefore, will be able to attend. Now, of course, our progress towards greener trucks doesn't just come from new vehicles. It comes from improving the performance of vehicles already in service. And there are a huge range of technologies that can be retrofitted to trucks to increase fuel efficiency. Aerodynamic fairings, low resistance lubricants, and low rolling resistance tyres. And indeed, many of them have been developed by members of the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership. But operators want proof that they work. If they're going to make a commitment to make a purchase to get a return on their investment, they need proof that they work. So today I can announce that the government will be launching a government-backed accreditation scheme. During the past 2 years, the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership, joint funded by the government, has worked with Hariba Myra and the Millbrook Group to develop a rigorous, real-world testing regime for retrofit technologies. The tests show that these technologies deliver real fuel-saving results. So we're opening up the testing process for manufacturers to submit their products for testing and accreditation. The guidelines are available today on the LowCVP website, and I urge everyone really involved in the retrofitted technology to make use of the scheme, which will give operators confidence and therefore help us cut carbon. So in conclusion, can I just draw some of this together and talk a little bit more about government commitment? It has been a great few years for ultra-low emission vehicles. This partnership deserves huge credit, and whatever the political ups and downs, I have no doubt at all that this industry will go from strength to strength. So we have to keep working together, keep innovating, keep improving our air quality, keep cutting carbon, and you have the full support of the government in all that you are doing to achieve those objectives. I think we've actually started to move the agenda very comprehensively. It isn't now about winning acceptance that the argument needs to be had. It is now a question of how we deliver the objectives. We haven't had air quality as a central political debate in some of our national discussions at election times in the past few years until much more recently, and it was critical in the recent London mayoral elections. All that we are doing is winning the argument. We now just need to make sure that we push upon this momentum, push upon the open door, build upon the momentum and deliver this benefit. The benefits in terms of our environment and making sure that the country that we live in gets the benefits of our technology as fast as we can. So the government is entirely committed to this agenda, and I look forward very much, therefore, to working with everybody to make sure we can achieve the benefits as quickly as possible. So thank you very much for inviting me to come here and share those views with you this morning. I'm afraid I have to return promptly to the Palace of Varieties. And who knows what is happening? It is moving so fast that stuff is happening. I was reading it on the newsfeed on the BBC on the tube to just make sure I was keeping pace with it all. However, what will be, will be. And by the time I have sat down over there, we'll have the close of nominations for the next Prime Minister. Who knows where we will be going? So it's going to be an exciting few weeks, but not, well, I can perhaps use another Chinese phrase, may you live in interesting times. This was not the interest I was hoping for from last week. However, we are where we are. The British people trump any kind of political leader, as we have seen very dramatically. But business is continuing. We have a positive and exciting agenda. It is about making our country a better place to live in the future, and that doesn't change. And if you don't get motivated by that, you're in entirely the wrong job. So thanks very much indeed for the opportunity to come here today.